November 28, 1944. The Philippine Sea. Midnight. The ocean is glass calm, lit only by a half-moon hanging over a dark horizon. Far below, inside a steel tube painted black and silent as the deep, 70 American sailors strain against the quiet. Their boat, USS Archerfish, moves at barely 3 knots. Every creak of the hull feels like thunder. In the conning tower, Commander Joseph F. Enright peers through the periscope. The Pacific night is empty, until suddenly, a shape appears. A dark outline. Massive. Unmistakable. A giant unlike anything he has ever seen. Through the lens, he sees the faint silhouette of an enormous ship cutting eastward. No running lights. Escort destroyers shadowing her flanks. She's not a freighter. Not a cruiser. Something else. Enright lowers the scope, heart pounding. He whispers the only words that matter: battle station, torpedo. Above them, Japan's greatest secret moves through the water, the largest warship ever built. And within hours, one submarine will make history. The story of the Archerfish begins long before that moonlit night. By late 1944, the Pacific Ocean had become the largest battlefield on Earth. The tide of war had turned. Japan's empire was shrinking. Its navy, once feared across the world, was bleeding steel into the deep. Only 3 years earlier, the Imperial Japanese Navy had stunned the world at Pearl Harbor. 6 carriers, hundreds of aircraft, one morning that changed history. The carrier had become the new king of naval warfare. But victory had made Japan arrogant, and attrition soon taught her humility. At Midway, Japan lost 4 of those 6 carriers: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu. Thousands of trained airmen vanished into smoke and sea. The empire could build new ships, but not new experience. From that day forward, the Japanese fleet was in a slow retreat, pressed by America's industrial might. Yet in secret, in the dockyards of Yokosuka, Japan was crafting a monster. Her name was Shinano. Conceived originally as the 3rd Yamato-class battleship, she was redesigned halfway through construction. The battleship hull, enormous, thickly armored, would become the base for the world's largest aircraft carrier. Shinano would displace more than 70,000 tons, nearly twice the weight of any American carrier. She was a fortress on water, belt armor thicker than a cruiser's, decks reinforced with steel, designed to survive what had destroyed her predecessors. Her purpose was simple: to be unsinkable. But the war was moving faster than the builders could hammer steel. The U.S. Navy was closing in on the Philippines. Tokyo trembled under nightly air raids. The Shinano was far from finished when orders came down. She must sail, even incomplete. Japan could not afford another symbol of defeat destroyed at the dockyard. By autumn 1944, the Imperial Navy was cornered. The Battle of Leyte Gulf, the largest naval battle in history, had ended in catastrophe. 4 Japanese carriers were sacrificed as decoys, their decks nearly empty of planes. The surface fleet, once majestic, had been shattered. For Japan, the ocean was no longer a shield, it was a graveyard. American submarines now ruled the Pacific. Out of every ship that left a Japanese port, 1 in 3 never arrived. Silent hunters lurked along every trade route, cutting the empire's lifelines of oil and iron. Their torpedoes carried not only explosives but starvation itself. Among these hunters was the Archerfish, a Below-class submarine launched in 1943. She was built in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, steel, rivets, and the faith of men who would never see the Pacific. After months of training, she joined the 7th Fleet, patrolling the deadly waters of the Marianas and the Philippine Sea. Her commander, Joseph F. Enright, had once been relieved of command after failing to find enemy ships. This was his redemption patrol, his second chance to prove he belonged among the Navy's best. When the Archerfish left Saipan on November 28, 1944, no one aboard could have imagined they were about to encounter the largest target in naval history. Meanwhile, in Yokosuka, Captain Toshio Abe received his orders. Shinano, still incomplete, missing watertight doors, lacking damage control gear, was to sail to Kure for final fitting out. Her escort, 4 destroyers. Her crew, over 2,000 men, many untrained. Her captain hesitated, but the orders were absolute. Japan needed her, and the empire's pride left no room for delay. That night, Shinano slipped out of Tokyo Bay under strict radio silence, her decks unpainted, her hangars empty. The secret weapon of Japan steamed into the darkness, unaware that fate was waiting beneath the waves. The human angle. Inside the Archerfish, life was a routine of endurance. The air smelled of diesel and sweat. Men slept inches apart, their bunks stacked like coffins. Every sound, the groan of the hull, the hum of machinery, reminded them that the ocean wanted them dead. They lived by silence, by trust, and by the voice of their commander. When radar operator Raymond Pitzer picked up a faint surface contact that night, no one expected it to matter. "Probably a patrol boat," someone muttered. But Enright ordered a dive and closed in. Hours passed. The contact grew stronger. Through the periscope, the dark shape grew until it filled the lens. Too large for a destroyer. Too slow for a cruiser. Something extraordinary. The tactical angle. Submarine warfare in 1944 was chess played in total darkness. Enright knew the odds. Attacking a convoy meant risking death from depth charges. But this target, escorted, immense, was irresistible. He set his course parallel to the enemy's path, matching speed. The pursuit began. 6 hours of stalking followed. The Archerfish weaved between thermal layers, trying to stay unseen by sonar. Every few minutes, Enright raised the periscope for a heartbeat glance, bow angle, bearing, range. The Japanese zigzagged, unaware of the predator beneath them. In that tense silence, discipline was everything. The helmsman's hands trembled on the wheel. Sweat dripped from the sonar operator's forehead. Each ping from above could mean discovery and destruction. Yet Enright kept his voice calm, deliberate, surgical. He had been waiting for this moment his entire career. The technological angle. The Shinano was a masterpiece of engineering and of irony. Her 72,000-ton frame was protected by armor no torpedo had ever breached. She carried pumps and generators fit for a city, with watertight compartments modeled after the Yamato. Yet she sailed unfinished. Her bulkheads unsealed, her watertight doors uninstalled, her damage control teams untrained. The very systems meant to keep her alive were missing. She was escorted by destroyers Isokes, Yukikes, Hamakes, and Kasumi, all veterans, all weary. Their sonar was primitive, their crews exhausted by months of retreat. To them, the waters off Japan felt safe. No one imagined an American submarine could slip so close to Tokyo. The moral and symbolic angle. The encounter was more than battle, it was symbolism. Beneath the waves, America's smallest fighting unit faced Japan's largest creation. One represented stealth and precision, the other, pride and excess. The Archerfish hunted not just a ship but an idea, that steel and size could defy destiny. Even the men aboard didn't yet understand the scale of what they'd found. Enright's report simply read, "Large carrier, heading south." The crew prepared the torpedoes, each one a silver cylinder of compressed death. They could not know that the target above them displaced more water than any warship afloat, or that history would remember this night forever. In those final moments of preparation, amid the whir of gyroscopes and the whispers of prayer, humanity and technology fused into one purpose: strike before being seen. For 6 hours, the two ships moved together through the night, hunter and giant, predator and prey. At 3 a.m., Enright had closed to within 1,400 yards. The sea was calm, moonlight rippled across the surface. Through the periscope, the target's towering bow rose like a cliff. He could see her bridge, her island, her deck lights faint behind blackout curtains. The destroyers continued their lazy zigzags, oblivious. Enright took a final bearing. His crew waited for the order. Each man knew the danger: fire now, and they'd reveal their position. But wait too long, and the opportunity would vanish forever. Stand by, 6 torpedoes. Bow tubes. The words echoed down the narrow hull. Men wiped sweat from their hands, hearts thudding in rhythm with the boat's engines. At 3:15 a.m., Enright gave the command: Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4. Compressed air hissed, the submarine lurched slightly. 4 fish streaked away into the black. The seconds that followed stretched into eternity. 30 seconds. 40. 50. Then, a flash. A roar. The sea erupted in flame. 1, 2, 3 explosions rocked the night, each deeper than the last. The crew of the Archerfish erupted in silent relief. Above them, the giant began to die. Aboard the Shinano, chaos. The first torpedo struck near the starboard boiler room, rupturing fuel tanks. The second slammed into the forward hull, the third near the aft engine compartments. Water flooded through unsealed bulkheads. The carrier shuddered as her lights flickered. Captain Abe tried to rally his men. Damage control parties forward. Seal the compartments. But many of those compartments had no doors. The ship had left the yard unfinished, pumps and valves still lay in crates. Within minutes, the list increased to 5 degrees, then 10. The escort destroyers circled, dropping depth charges into the darkness, but the Archerfish was already gone, diving deep and slipping west. Enright could hear the explosions fading like distant thunder. He had no idea what he'd struck, only that the enemy was enormous. Above, Shinano fought for her life. For 6 hours, her crew battled rising water with sandbags, mattresses, and prayers. But the flooding was relentless. As compartments filled, air was forced into others, creating pockets of pressure that blew open bulkheads. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes. The carrier's power failed, pumps went silent. By dawn, her list had reached 30 degrees. Captain Abe stood on the bridge, refusing to abandon ship. At 10:18 a.m., Shinano rolled onto her side. Hundreds of men jumped into the sea. Moments later, she slipped beneath the surface, taking 1,435 souls with her. It was the largest warship ever sunk by a submarine. And the Archerfish never saw the explosion, only the calm after victory. When Archerfish surfaced hours later, the horizon was empty. No wreckage, no flames, only gray sea. Enright recorded the attack in his logbook, cautious, restrained. 4 torpedoes observed to hit. Target of great size, possibly a carrier. Then he set course for Midway. At base, intelligence officers listened in disbelief. The U.S. Navy knew nothing of a carrier that size operating near Japan. Analysts suspected Enright had exaggerated. His patrol report was filed and almost forgotten, until intercepted Japanese communications confirmed the impossible. The Shinano, the world's largest carrier, secret sister of the Yamato, was gone. Sunk less than 10 hours after leaving port. It was a disaster so humiliating that Tokyo kept it secret for months. Only a handful of survivors reached shore, most were sworn to silence. For Enright and his crew, the news arrived weeks later. The submarine that had once been doubted had achieved the impossible. The Archerfish became legend overnight. Enright received the Navy Cross, the crew, Presidential Unit citations. Their victory was a symbol not of luck, but of endurance, precision, and faith in training. In Japan, the loss of Shinano struck deeper than numbers. She had represented the last hope of naval pride, a fortress meant to stand between the homeland and annihilation. Her sinking proved that no amount of armor could save an empire built on illusion. Engineers studied the disaster with grim honesty. Had Shinano been completed, had her watertight integrity been finished, she might have survived. But time and desperation had forced her to see half-ready. She became a metaphor for Japan itself, magnificent in vision, doomed by haste. For the U.S. Navy, the victory validated the doctrine of submarine warfare. A single boat, operating alone, had dealt a blow no fleet engagement could match. It underscored the quiet revolution taking place beneath the waves, that in modern war, stealth could defeat size. After the war, Enright met surviving Japanese officers who confirmed every detail. Even they admitted admiration. One said softly, "Your submarine fought with the patience of a samurai." The compliment stayed with Enright for the rest of his life. In the end, the story of Shinano and Archerfish is not merely about destruction, it's about transition. The age of the battleship and the supercarrier gave way to a new era, one ruled by silence, sensors, and the unseen. Beneath the ocean, a handful of men inside a steel tube had changed the balance of naval power forever. Their victory required no grand speeches, no cheering crowds, only courage, discipline, and the willingness to wait in darkness. Shinano remains on the seafloor, 4,000 feet down, a ghost of ambition swallowed by consequence. The Archerfish is long gone too, but her name endures in every submarine that sails silently through the deep. In that meeting of opposites, Colossus and Shadow, pride and patience, history found its perfect irony. 1 submarine. 4 torpedoes. 10 minutes. The largest warship in history, gone forever.